last time we have seen JavaScript's arrays and functions. I hope you have appreciated them and maybe hopefully played with them. So you will see this more in the lab, but you have to go prepared to the lab, otherwise you will not be able to benefit much. So please go through what we are discussing. I cannot go through all the examples. I only show you kind of the main ideas you have to explore further. So now we stopped at arrays and the different very interesting functions that array come with. And we particularly focused on these functions, the map, the reduce, the filter, and the find. Very interesting, and you will use them heavily in this course. Now, before I move forward, I want to show you some new, very interesting features that come with the latest version of JavaScript. One of them is called distracting assignment. A big word, but simple concept. Let me show it to you through examples. So I go through arrays, and then I go here, array distracting. So here is an array. Let me try to increase the font a bit more. Okay. All right. Here is an array. Here is how I declare an array. I do a let keyword followed by the identifier, followed by a comma delimited list of values. So I have an array. How many elements in this array? 4 elements. So if I want to extract some elements from the array, you know how to do that. You use the name of the array and the index you are looking for. You want to extract. So for example, if I want to get the first color, I use the index 0. If I want to get the third color, I use the index 2, and so on. Okay, so this is one way of doing it. JavaScript, like 2015 edition, it came with the new assignment operator. We call it the distracting assignment. It basically takes the array and breaks it down into pieces and allow you to easily extract elements from the array. So have a look at this. So this can be written in one line, like this. So you put here, you declare you put an array, and inside it you put the destination variables, the variables that will receive values from the array. So, and then you assign to them the array. So what will happen when I do this? The first color will go into the first color variable. And the second color from the colors array will go into the second variable. And the third will go into the third variable. So this line and this line are equivalent. It's up to you which one you want to use. And this feature is called array distracting. Instead of constructing, we are distracting. Okay? Now, let's say I have more than, you see here how many I have there? 4 elements. Now, have a look at this. So what I have here is the first color will go into the primary color variable. The second color will go into the second variable. And the remaining colors, how many colors remaining? 2 more will go into this third variable. But what will be this third variable? It will be an array that has 2 elements. So to indicate that the rest will go into the third variable, I come to the last variable, and I put this triple dot. So these triple dots are known as the rest parameter or the rest operator. Are you following? So what will happen? What will be the value of primary color in this scenario? Red. Secondary color? Green. And what will be the value inside this other colors? It's an array of blue and yellow. Is clear? It's just a very elegant way of taking an array and breaking it and distracting it or distributing it into variables. Okay. Why I'm using let in the second one? Because I didn't declare these first. In here, I already declared them. So if you want, I can basically, because I didn't declare these variables yet. Primary color is not declared yet. And secondary and others are not declared. So in here, I am doing declare and at the same time assign. If I haven't declared those, okay, let me show you. Here, I can say color 1. If you want, I can do this way. Color 2 and color 3. Because these variables are not declared yet, I have to do let. Okay? But if I already declare them, I just use them to receive values from the array. So you basically, every concept that we cover, there is an example. You just right-click and run to see what the example does. So here, this output is coming from this first console log, and then this second one is coming from this console log, and basically they are equivalent. It's just a shortcut. Instead of doing this in 3 lines, I'm doing it in 1 line. It's just a shortcut. So here, this one is more interesting. I am interested to grab the first 2, and the remaining, I want them to go into the third variable. And you can see here the third variable is an array. And the rest, to allow the structure or this assignment to assign the remaining variable into the third, the remaining, colors into the third variable, I have to use the rest operator. So in front of the variable, I put how many dots? 3 dots. And what we call these 3 dots? Rest operator. Rest means the remaining. The remaining elements of the array, I want them to go in this scenario to the third variable. Yes, please. Okay. My understanding, you can play with this. My understanding, the rest is the last. So, because the rest, basically, you can skip if you wish. Let's say I can skip this one, skip the middle one. I am not interested to get it. But the rest is basically always the last parameter or the last variable. Because basically it says, okay, take take the values from the array, assign them to the variables, and then the remaining ones, put them in the last one. So the last one is the one which should have the 3 dots. Okay? But this is very good. Any idea comes to your mind, this is the basic idea. All you need to do, grab it, play with it as much as you can, change it, put more scenarios around it until the idea really, you master it. Okay? We cannot stay in one concept for a long time. I just guide you through the learning. You have to put some more effort. And of course, this will become like yours, and you will be able to use it when you practice it. The more you practice it, the better. So the idea here is that when you have a problem at hand, don't try to solve it using the old techniques that you already know. Try to use the new features that we are covering. That's the whole idea. So is the array destructuring clear? Okay, it's just a shortcut for assigning or extracting values from an array and assigning them to variables. Okay, another very interesting function, operator, sorry, it's called the spread operator. Okay, so let me show you this. Let me just try to, let me see if I can put here, can try to comment this. By the way, the block comment is a star slash star and then star slash if you want to comment a whole block. Why it's not like it doesn't like it? Okay, good. So a math is basically an object that is built in JavaScript. It has a lot of very, very interesting functions. So you can see here if I do math dot, has a lot of functions here. Absolute value, sinus, exponential floor, and so many functions that you can think of, the pi, constant, and so on. Now, if you can see here, many of those functions, they take as a parameter a list of values. So let me show you. If I come here and say math.max, math is a built-in object. I just come and use it. So if I do here console.log, oh, sorry. Okay, let me just put here console.log. So what I will see here, 23 is the biggest one, okay? Now in here, I happen to have an array. You see here, I have a nums, which is an array that has those values. Now, I try to call max and pass this num here as a parameter. So let's see what will happen. So let me run this. You see here, the first scenario, this first usage scenario, it went very well, and I get what the expected value, which is 23. The second one, what did I get? A none. Why is that? So max, what does max expect as an input? No, is this array? It's a list. It's basically a comma delimited list of numbers. It's not an array. How to make it an array? Put it between square brackets. So what is the expected parameters for a max method? It's not an array. It's a comma delimited list of values. Now, if I pass it an array, it doesn't work because that's not what it expects. Are you following? So it is expecting a list of values. I am passing it an array, so it will not work. Which means, unfortunately, if I have an array, I am not able to use the max method from the math class. So to solve this, JavaScript 6, or the latest version of JavaScript, came with an operator called the spread operator. It's exactly the same as, kind of looks the same as the rest operator we just seen. All I need to do is I'll come here and put 3 dots in front of this. Which means in this scenario, what do I call these 3 dots? Spread operator. So I'm basically taking the array and converting it into a list of separate arguments instead of an array. So if I do this and I run, no problem. I get the value, expected value. So let me summarize. If I have an array and I want to convert it into a comma delimited list of values, I basically use the spread operator. Let me see if I can, just to try it, if I do console.log, okay, and then I do this, just to see what's in there. You see here, console.log, and I put this spread operator, it basically converts this array into a list of values. Okay? So the scenario, keep it simple. The scenario where we use the spread operator, if I have an array and I want to pass it to a function that does not expect an array, it expects a list of values, then I can use the spread operator to convert the array into comma delimited list of values. Is clear? That is the spread operator. Now, another use case for using the spread operator is, let me give you another scenario where we use this. Here I have two arrays. Can you see it? I have two arrays. One is basically called cold, and it's initialized with two values, and another one is called warm, and it's initialized with two values. Okay? Now, I want to merge or concatenate or combine these two arrays into one. Of course, I can use the array.concat function to concatenate, but there is a more elegant way of doing it. I can say here, like let's say seasons equal, and I basically say, take this value, take this array, and spread it, and then take this array and spread it. And the values coming from these two arrays, I use them to construct a new array. And I can add, if I wish, I can add more values. Another season. Okay, let's say in our region, it's another season. Okay. So if I do here console.log and I use seasons, you can see the values from the first array plus the values of the second array plus any value that I have here. Okay, I can even add more if I wish. So here, another season, cool. So I can combine existing array values coming from existing arrays with extra values, and I can combine the way I wish into one array using this spread operator. So it's a very elegant way of concatenating arrays. So let me run it. And you can see here, you can see the new array has the values that I literally entered, plus the values coming from these two arrays, plus extra elements that I have added myself. So very powerful, very elegant syntax of combining arrays. So these are the two scenarios where we use the spread operator. So when do we use spread operator? So if I have an array, yes please, somebody can maybe summarize. Or another way, more interesting, more practical way of using it, if I have an array and I want to pass it to a function that expects multiple arguments, I can take the array, put a spread operator in front of it, and then that spread operator will convert that array to a list of arguments that will be passed to the function. Another scenario where I use spread operator to concatenate arrays. Multiple arrays combined with extra elements that I can add to the new array. These are the scenarios where I use, basically I use the spread operator. Let me see, local history, show history. Okay, let me see if I can revert. Okay, revert. Anyway, very good. I just reverted all what I did. All right, but this is just another little feature of, what is it, WebStorm. So if you happen to play with some file and then you did so many changes, you don't like them, you can go to local history, look at the change, look at where, look at the changes, look at the version you want to go back to, and basically click on it and say revert. And it will undo all your changes. Okay, so the last operator I want to show you is the rest operator again. I just want to emphasize it one more time. We already seen it. So the same operator, depending where we use it, the same 3 dots. If we use it with arrays, we are basically converting an array into a list of arguments. or we use it to combine arrays into bigger one. Now, in here, in this scenario, we use it in another scenario. We use it with destructuring. Remember destructuring? So in here, in this scenario, this operator is not called the spread operator. We call it the rest operator. Because basically what I'm doing here, I'm extracting the first two elements of the array, assigning them to these two variables, and the remaining elements will go into this variable. So in this context, what do we call these three dots? The rest operator, okay? Another scenario where I use the rest operator is, let's say I create this function called sum. And what does it receive as input? List of values. It's not an array. It's just a list of values. Now, in the function, in the sum, I want to receive this list as an array. So I have a list. So you can think of the rest operator as the opposite of the spread. So I am feeding, or I am giving as an input a list of values, and I receive them in the function as an array. Why do I want to receive them as an array? Because I want to benefit from the very sophisticated functions that come with array to do the sum. So instead of, and plus, I don't know how many values you will pass to me. Maybe 3, maybe 5, I don't know. So in here, I cannot declare num1, num2, num3, num5. I don't know how many will pass to me. So you can pass as many as you wish. And then when I receive them as what? As an array. How do I achieve this? Using the rest operator. So basically, the parameter, let me just be consistent. I'll put it this way. The parameter of my function, I put 3 dots in front of it. And all these 3 dots do, they basically receive the list of inputs and converts them to an array. Yes, it's clear? So let me show you. Let me run this. Let me just comment this so I can focus on one thing at a time. Okay, so here I right-click and run. And you can see I pass these values as a comma-delimited list of arguments, and I receive them as an array. And here is the proof. Yes? And then I use the reduce function. Remember the reduce function we discussed last time? I use the reduce function to do the sum of those values and reduce them into one variable. And then return that one to the caller. It's clear? Very concise and very elegant way of doing things. So in here, I don't need, traditionally in Java, you cannot do this. In Java, as many arguments, as many parameters you have to declare. Say num1, num2, num3, and so on. And you are restricted. If you declare if you declare a function with 5 parameters, you have to pass 5 parameters. In here, you are not really restricted. Using this sophisticated syntax and technique, I can pass here as many as I wish. 1, 2, 5, 100, 1,000. It doesn't matter. When I receive them, they will be nicely, basically nicely received as an array. And then I can do whatever with that array. Is clear? So this is what we call this 3 dots in front of my argument, the rest operator. So let's just quickly summarize. You remember the spread operator. They look exactly the same, 3 dots, but they work very, very differently, almost kind of the opposite of each other. So what do we use the spread operator for? Yes. So basically, I can use the spread operator to convert an array to a list of arguments. And the example is, there is a math.max. It receives a list of arguments. if I have an array at hand, how can I pass that array to max? I can't. So I must use the spread operator to convert it to list of arguments. What's another scenario where you use the spread operator? To combine and concatenate multiple arrays into one. So you use the spread operator to do so. Now, on the other side, there is the rest operator. What do we use it for? Yes, to convert a list of arguments into an array. And the example is the sum function. I can pass to it as many numbers as I wish, and I receive them as an array. What's another scenario? Yes, I can use it with the destructing assignment. Destructing assignment. I can use it with destructing assignment, where I extract the values from an array, and those values will be assigned to variables, and the remaining values will go into an array variable. Is clear? So I'll show you this one. I'll show you this one more time. Here is my array. How many elements does it have? 4 elements. What is my goal here? What I'm trying to do with this array? Extract the first 2 and assign them to these 2 variables, primary color and secondary color. And the remaining, I put other colors. Yes? So you can think of this, let's say you have a list of students and you want to sort them by GPA. And then you say, give me the top 3 students, put them in students 1, 2, 3, and then the remaining, put them in other students. You see some scenario like this? So this is where, of course, you can always do it manually the way you used to do. You basically go to the array using the index and you extract what you want. You can do that, of course. But this is much more elegant and more concise. And that's what I'm stressing here. You should use these features whenever you can. Yes, please. But it doesn't kind of make sense, isn't it? We can try it. We can. My understanding, because even the name suggests the rest. First, I extract what I want, and then the rest. I guess if I put this one first, I think all of them will go to the first. All of them will end up in other colors, maybe. But these are good questions. These things you should try so you get the idea better. I didn't like it. Okay. So in here, what it says, okay. It didn't like it. So because I guess so, it doesn't make too much sense. Because the name, even the name of the operator is a rest operator. So you might need to think about the solution in a different way. Okay. Is clear, those operators? So what we have seen so far, we have seen a general introduction to JavaScript. You know now how to declare variables. You are familiar with the types. You are familiar with conditional statements, with loops, with arrays, with functions, and passing function as a parameter to another function. It doesn't scare you anymore. You have seen some sophisticated features that come with the latest version. I think you now have the basic JavaScript skills. Now the next step, so functional programming is one style of programming, where you divide your program into a set of functions. Another style that people also use is object-oriented programming. In real life, you combine both. You do object-oriented plus functional, two programming styles in one program. That's the common way of doing things. So now let's move. Now we finished kind of the equivalent is of 151. Now we are, of course, which introduces programming to you. Now we move into the object-oriented style. And hopefully in this session and maybe the next, we will cover the whole course of 251. what object-oriented programming in JavaScript looks like. Okay, so let me go back maybe now to the slides. And by the way, every concept you see in these slides, there is a corresponding example that you need to play with as much as you wish for you to really grasp the concept. Any ideas, the nice ideas you told me, can I do it? Can I support this use case? Can I do it differently? Try it. So things will become much clearer to you. Of course, in here we cannot try all scenarios just because of the time. Yes, please. Okay, very good question. Now, WebStorm, what is WebStorm? Yes. So what do we call it? In general, what do we call Eclipse? IDE. What's IDE stands for? Integrated Development Environment. Okay, you can write your code. You can, in case of Java, you can compile it. You can run it. You can debug it. You can do all in one place. That's why we call it Integrated Development Environment. Okay. Now, WebStorm is just another integrated development environment. Yes. You can use Notepad if you don't like. If you don't like WebStorm, it's just Notepad. You don't have this color and nice colors and syntax highlighting and this code completion and all this stuff. You don't have all of this. So now it's just a tool. It's just a tool to write your code and run it. Now the engine that will take the JavaScript and run it is basically Node.js. Okay, so you go and download this Node.js and install it. Download the latest version. Always use the latest version. Now, what is this Node.js? So remember, JavaScript, when it was born in the context of the browser. Inside the browser, whenever you want to do some interesting programming, some animation, as we discussed before, some validation, Netscape, maybe 20 years ago, invented JavaScript. And this language grew and became very interesting. And suddenly people said, why should we just keep JavaScript in the browser? Let's take it out of the browser and make it a generic multi-purpose programming language. So all they did, they took the JavaScript engine that is built in Chrome. They took that one because it's open source. They took it and they built extra libraries on top of it, and they called it Node.js. And suddenly it became very, very famous. You can see here how many hits? Just 16 million, not 2 million. Okay, very, very famous framework for developing applications that run on any environment, that run on desktop, on mobile, everywhere. It can run anywhere. And basically, please download this latest version, download it, install it. And then when you install it, let Node.js know about it. So all you do, File, Settings, go here and type Node. And here I'm saying, please, by the way, I have installed Node in this location. So go to Settings and then tell tell WebStorm that Node.js is installed in this location. And that's it. Now, whenever you run a JavaScript file like this one, right-click and run, you can see here, can you see what it's doing? It's basically running Node and passing to it as a parameter the file you're trying to run. Because remember, JavaScript is an interpreted language. So there's an engine. It takes as a parameter a string and run that string. That's it. That's what is Node.js and what's the context of it. Of course, you can just use your Notepad, write your program, and then go to type in the console Node and the name of the file. You can run it. No problem. But in here, it's all integrated, nicely done. Okay, so you can see here in this development environment, you can see here it says it knows, because it is an IDE, it's very smart. It knows that max, what does it expect? A list of parameters, a list of arguments, not an array. So it's already kind of warning you. It's saying it's not assigned to a parameter type. Anyway, giving you, it's not very meaningful, by giving you that, be careful here, there is something going wrong. If you, as soon as I do triple dot, nope, is there any complaint? No complaints. So that's the role of the IDE. It's just helping you, plus these nice colors and so on. That's all. That's the role of the role of WebStorm. And there are so many IDEs. Visual Studio, there are so many IDEs that are free. This one is commercial. We are using it, but just because they give us a free one for academic use. But there are many other alternatives. This one is nice and easy to use and everything. Yes, any other question? It's clear? Okay, now let's move to the object-oriented programming using JavaScript. Now, when we want to do object-oriented programming, let me just remind you, in functional style, in a functional programming, you basically you look at the world and you see the world as a set of functions. They do some work and they return some results. If you put your object-oriented glasses, how do you see the world? Sets of objects that store some information about themselves, and they are capable of performing some work. So it's just a different ways of seeing the world. Now, because you're already familiar with the concept, I'll just now show you how it is done in JavaScript. So there are 3 ways to create an object in JavaScript. One, you already seen, using an object literal. Object literal means you already know the values, you already know the properties, you just use a particular syntax to create an object on the fly. Just create an object like this, no need for a class first. Now, if you come in from some traditional object-oriented programming language like Java or C or C++, then you can, if you wish, it's not required in JavaScript. You can first create a class and then use the class to create objects, but it's not required here. The other way to do it in JavaScript, if you already have an object, you can create an object out of it. Okay, so so you can basically clone that object and then change the new object. So let's say you have, let's say, 2 cats, cat 1 and cat 2. You can just create the cat 1 object and then create another copy of it, which will be cat 2, and then change a couple of things. They have a lot of things in common. You just change a couple of other properties or functions. That's the idea. Again, when you are developing a large application, you might need to break it down into modules, multiple files. And we will see how to break a large application into multiple files. And then don't worry about this at this stage. Okay, so here is how it looks. You already know what an object is. An object is a unit that combines properties and methods as under one roof. So puts properties and methods together, and we call that an object. So these are the 3 ways, as I explained. Now here is how I create what is known as an object literal. All I do, this is not good. I don't use var. What do I use? Let. So let followed by a variable name or the object name equals, and I open my curly brace. Yes? And then I start defining my properties. So here is my first name, last name, height. And then what I'm defining here? A method. This is a method, how I define it. So it's just a name followed by parentheses, curly brace, and then it returns this dot first name, which refers to the first name coming from the object. This refers to the current object. You're already familiar with this in Java, same meaning. And plus, this is not very good. Don't use this syntax. Which syntax should we use? We should use this. Yes, no, we use this one. So we use, if you remember, $sign and then $this. Okay, that's it. This is how it should be, and then that's it. I created an object, and I can call the functions and call the methods. So I can call the function like this. I can call the property, just go into the object name dot property name, or I can call the method object name dot the. No, this is not very good again. A method should start with a verb. Get name, and here get name. Is clear? Okay, so let me show you this running. Here is object-oriented programming. Here is the, no, not loops, object-oriented programming, object literal. And here it is. Here is get full name. Here is the first name, last name, ID. And then basically if I run this, right click and run, you can see these two. This one is coming from this method. Yes, is clear? The object literal? Okay, another way, not really interesting. If you wish, you can do it this way. You create an empty object. How do you create an empty object? Curly braces. And then you define the properties and you define the methods this way. You can do this if you wish. But this one is much more elegant and much more concise. Okay. Not only this, if you have, say, two variables, can you see here? I have a first variable called name, and I have, what do I have here? Courses, which is an array of objects. This is how I declare an array of objects. I open the square brackets for an array, and then these are the objects delimited by curly brace and separated by comma. Yes? Then what I can do, I can take these two variables and use them to construct an object. So what this student object will have, it will have a name coming from this variable, and it will have the courses coming from this variable. And then I can add a method. Can you see here a method being added? Which is display. And all I am doing, I am constructing a message string, concatenating the name plus all the courses and displaying that message. So in this case, all I do student.display, and I get all the results. And this is the result. This is the name, and these are the courses taken by that particular student. Is clear? The object literal, the idea of object literal. Now, of course, okay, I think this is enough for this first idea. Now the other way, let me just jump. I will come back to this later on. Let me jump to the other way of creating an object. Another way of creating an object is using a class first. You create a class, then you define the properties and the methods of the class, and then you use the class to create the object. So maybe the best way is through an example again. Here is, I'm jumping here. I'm showing too many things. Okay, here is an example class. A person, you can see here the keyword class, followed by, almost the same as in Java, followed by the name of the class. You can see the name of the class starts with uppercase, very important as a convention. And then this is my constructor. In Java, the constructor has the same name as the class. In JavaScript, the constructor is a function called constructor, much simpler. Okay? And then it takes as a parameter a name. When you create an object, you pass to it the name, and that name will be used to create and set an attribute called name. And here, this is greeting, and I'll see return this string. So to create an object, I will say let's say me equals new person. You can see a person, and then whatever. And then I can see me dot greeting, and I do here console.log me dot greeting. So if I take this and run it, sorry. Okay, if I take this and run it, you can see this is coming from this first one. Okay, so that's it. This is how I declare a class. It should be very familiar to you. Using a constructor to initialize the object at the time of creation. So in here, the name Ali will be assigned to the property called name, and then the greeting method, I can call it on the object that I create. I can also do inheritance, exactly the same as in Java. I'll say here student extends a person. So the student will have the greeting method, it will have the name property. But I will add one more thing, which is the GPA. Not all people have GPA, but students do. So when I construct a student, I pass two parameters, and I use them to initialize the object. And I can change the greeting to be the greeting of the super plus my GPA is. So, and then I can use this to create as many instances as I wish. So in here, you can see here I'm creating a student, a person, a teacher, and I'm putting them in an array of people. And then I can loop through them and display, call them methods or do whatever I want to do.